What's up, you guys? We got a huge guest coming on the podcast today. The highest ranking law enforcement officer in the state, AG Drew Wrigley, will be on the pod today. You guys are going to want to stick around. You're going to want to check this out. He's got a lot of fun stuff to say. Let's get into it.
I'll resist the temptation to do what I do. 10-minute answers. It's like, honestly,
okay.
God, Drew. You're not in the United States Senate, Drew.
Yeah.
You don't need to bore us to tears on what you're saying.
Okay.
So I'll try to clip it up a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
my kids are on all that stuff. They talked me into going on Instagram 2 years ago, and I could be a marketer for Instagram. I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
And then when the algorithm figures you out, like anytime I want to see somebody have like an endo skiing accident, my Instagram is where, people say, hey, Drew, I haven't seen any footage of somebody falling down a mountain for a while. Can you send me something? Sure. Why don't I just go on here? That's my feed, is all stuff like that. It's awesome.
Do you find it weird
animal
that-
attacks. Animals attack each other,
Yeah,
and they're vicious.
Do you find it weird that like it can connect everything? Like if you say I want a new pair of shoes and then you go on your
Yep,
Instagram and
I
it tries
find
to
it-
sell you a pair of shoes, like do you find that as a problem?
I
or-
find it's weird, and I find that it gets borderline. It should be illegal. Are we filming right now?
we are.
Yep.
This,
But
how
we can,
fun is
yeah,
that?
we can turn it
Yeah,
off.
we can turn it on and off
It's so
at any point here.
spontaneous. You can leave
Yeah.
it going. So I'm a very transparent person. So I think that the fun thing about it is that, but it also should
Yeah.
be illegal that they get you, that they tape you. I think, like, how does it work? A few seconds, it's constantly looping back to these algorithms, even without you hitting send on something. It's just getting, like, your phone's picking, you're wiretapped, in essence. And so there are privacy concerns there, whatever. I don't know. I'm not plotting the overthrow of the government or anything, so I'm not that concerned that they're going to. But whatever. I get it. People are concerned privacy. I personally, though, I kind of dig it. I think Instagram's really fun. My kiddos talked me into that 2 or 3 years ago, like I said, and it's funny. You go out and what you look on there. Now, if I were, looking up serial killers or doing something like that, I'm on there, and I'm sure there's troubling stuff too. I guess that'd be a good way to find out what your kids are up to. I insist on seeing what's your algorithm got you doing, but I don't know. They're
Well, clearly
doing
you're
their own
skiing
thing.
down a mountain in animal accident. Animals
Yeah,
fighting.
yeah,
That's not
fine.
what I would have
Look,
expected.
yep, it's snow skiing accidents and just coolness on people snow skiing, and then animal attacks. I mean, at the edge. I'm just gonna tell you right now, if you want to steer clear, if you want to live to a ripe old age, don't go to Africa and stand at any water's edge. Don't. Something's going to lunge out of there. It might be a snake. It might be an alligator. It might be some other submerged thing that you didn't even know could go underwater, and it comes out, and you're done. If you're lucky, you're going to drown before what it does to you. That's my observation for my Instagram page.
Okay.
Noted.
This is not Wild
Noted.
Kingdom, but I could do it. And so those are on there. I'm trying to think what else is on my Instagram page. There's there for a while there was a heavy thing on mountain bike, like through the woods. People do crazy stuff, and then honestly, I don't need to watch that kind of carnage. People have pretty serious wipeouts on bikes, and that just wasn't fun because I knew it was coming. Snow skiing, it's kind of funny, like the guy's just tumbling down the hill or something, but nobody wants to watch somebody actually get hurt.
No.
So.
Yeah.
The internet's just full of anything you want. Take your pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing
Yeah.
some people look at weirder stuff than I do, but those are my go-tos. Those are fun, and I like to water ski. So in the summer, we'll get some of that stuff on there. My oldest daughter and I think, are the last two people in Minnesota that don't surf behind a boat all the time. We water ski, and once I was mentioning to you before, once a summer I barefoot, keep the streak alive. I'm at 37 years in a row of barefooting. I used to go a lot of times each summer. Now I can my body can withstand one barefoot run, and then I put that out on Twitter and just receive the applause from my elderly
Oh,
friends.
you do have a Twitter, huh?
I have Twitter and Instagram. Those are the two. Twitter is really for me a news thing. I mean, I get all my news feeds there, and that's where I end up reading a lot of news. People say, "Well, you believe what you read?"
Is it like
Actual
your
news sites.
government official, like, verified account, or is that like a personal Drew
it
Wrigley
is.
account?
It is. It's not verified. It was for a time, and then Elon Musk wants to charge me like whatever it is, 87 cents. I don't know what it is. I'm not paying you for this thing. I don't, but my Instagram, I don't want to brag, but it's verified.
Nice.
And you know why that happened? True story. When people say true story, do you think to yourself, so the rest of this has been nonsense? No, but this, all of a sudden, about This is about 2 months after I got Instagram. All of a sudden, Sunday night, I get back from the lake. My niece, Gracie, sends me a note. She said, Uncle Drew, did you open a second Instagram account? And I said, no, I barely opened my first account. And I got on to see what was going on. And it was a mirror account. And somebody had set up, they were able to steal from my account all of the, everything that I had posted. I'd posted 3 or 4 things at that time, just a few. And then steal the images. You could steal the whole thing and set up another account, and then you just change the name a little bit. I don't know what the point is. They're going to like lure someone into having a discussion with me and ask for government secrets or something. I don't know. I'm not putting government secrets out there anyway. And so it was so interesting. It was kind of entertaining at the time. I thought that was funny. So I sent a note to Instagram, and they had it off there in 30 minutes. Must happen all the time. Flash forward a year after that. I'm going along again. It was a weekend. I was at the lake, and my Instagram account is it's suspended.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. What? How can this be? And then we get to Monday morning, and we contact Instagram, which is not easy, by the way. People don't actually work there. I'm convinced. Like you have to be able to talk to their AI computers or something. And they got on there. No kidding. They suspended my account because it looked to them like I was impersonating a public official, maybe even a politician. That's what it said.
That's celebrity status when you got people creating fake accounts,
So
trying to ban you to be one.
After that, they said, why don't we go ahead and verify your Instagram account? And I said, me? Share? You bet.
Absolutely.
Madonna? All of us. I'm just known. I want to change the title to Drew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to find you on there now. Verified Drew
Yeah.
Wrigley. Like this is
Yep, Drew.Wrigley 30.
30.
Why the 30?
Yeah.
Because I'm the 30th Attorney General.
Okay. I should have known.
And I feel
There
like
you
I'm
go.
30, but I'm a lot older than
That's
that.
right.
Well, that water skiing, that's keeping
Yeah.
you there.
That's right. It keeps me young. And then pulling my kids around all day long, surfing or whatever they do.
Sure. So what was Drew Wrigley doing? I'm 24. Joseph is 28. What were you doing when you were 24? Let's say that. What were you? You going to school?
24, I was going to law school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated from University of North Dakota in 1988. Oh, my word. And that explains my gray hair. See, when I say stuff like that, then there's stuff I don't have to explain, like my gray hair. And then I went to law school out in D.C., and I come back every summer back to North Dakota and work. And then after law school, I had a clerkship in Delaware for a year. Lived on the beach and worked for a judge. It was an amazing experience, both living on the beach and working for the judge. And then I moved to Philly, went to work. I always knew I was coming home to North Dakota, no question about it. I'm a 4th generation North Dakotan, and it's in our blood. Like, I was coming home. Yeah. But I really wanted to prosecute in a major city. I thought, if I can find a city that's just a little grimy crime-wise and have a great experience prosecuting, and I wasn't married and have kids. I didn't have anybody I needed to keep alive, so I moved to Philly. Great city to live in if you don't have anybody you want to keep alive. And so, super violent, crime-ridden city, but also a lot of great things about it. A lot to protect too. Mm-hmm. So it was one of the biggest offices in the country, 300 prosecutors, and I worked there for 5 years before moving home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine when you were first going to law school, at 24, we're looking at what we're doing and what our big dreams and our big goals are. Did you ever envision that you would be sitting where you are today? 30th AG, you were lieutenant governor at one point. I mean, those are like accomplishments that, we're not even, that's a whole nother realm from us.
Do you know, that's very nice of you. When I came back in the summers, I worked the first year for a federal judge who's now passed away, Judge Rodney Webb, and he had been U.S. attorney before. I didn't know anything about being a lawyer. No, we didn't have any lawyers in my family, and I didn't really know any of my parents' friends who were lawyers. I didn't know them particularly well. I just had a sense that this is what I wanted to do. Well, then I came back the first summer. I ended up getting a job working for federal Judge Webb for the summer, and I kind of got eyes on what the U.S. Attorney's Office was doing, what the prosecutors were doing, and believe it or not, I have a longer explanation for every story that I tell, but getting eyes on that, I thought that is work that I can really see myself being interested in. And I came back the second summer of law school, and I worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office in a volunteer capacity and internship, and then also for a law firm here in town. And it was over. That was it. That's what I was going to do. I was going to prosecute. And so, when you say big dreams, I went to law school wanting to go to law school. I didn't really have a good sense or vision for it. And when I got there, I just was fortunate through a couple of almost like stumbling into situations, working over at the federal courthouse and then working in the U.S. Attorney's Office in that internship. And like I say, that was it. I got a clerkship for the year after law school, which is something I wanted to do, a good opportunity to, work for a judge and then learn a lot more and get eyes on a courtroom. And then I was applying to all the major city DA's offices because I didn't have a preference for where I wanted to go, but I just wanted to have that experience. Wanted to try a lot of cases, and I tried a lot of cases. 5 straight years of trying cases and doing investigations, working with law enforcement, working with crime victims and community advocates and what have you, and not to mention an array of judges and different approaches. And I was super blessed to have that experience. And on top of it, it was a lot of fun. It was super challenging, and I felt like it was meaningful. I mean, every day there's, whatever the crime rate might be in some community. I say this to people here all the time in North Dakota. Whether you live in a high crime rate or low crime rate, for the people who are victims of crime, the crime rate's 100%. And I feel that to the core, even today, all these decades later, when I have the privilege of doing work along those lines. To your bio, I'll add twice serving as the presidentially appointed U.S. Attorney in North Dakota. That was something. I started off to answer that question because you asked, did I have a sense of what I would do with my career? I told my oldest daughter's in law school right now, and it sounds hokey, but I'm super blessed. I am living my dreams. You know what I mean? I get to do the things professionally that I dreamt of doing. I didn't even want to say those things out loud. Sometimes I thought to myself, people that think, well, you want to go into public life or you want to. And I knew when I was appointed United States Attorney the first time under President Bush and then confirmed and got to get back into law enforcement where I had left a couple years earlier when I left the DA's office and moved home here. I meant it. I didn't know if I would ever be in public service after being U.S. Attorney. There were a couple of opportunities, like partially through my 8 years there, that I didn't take because I said, there's no way I will leave this work that I love this much to go do something else because it just happens to be involved in politics or public life. And that was something I figured out pretty early on. These jobs are not all the same. And if people want to be in public life, be careful what you're looking for because not all the jobs are the same. And when I say that, I don't just mean people who run for public office. I mean public life. And there are a lot more public servants who are not people who run for office, but they are every bit as much in public life. I'm proud of everybody who works in that Capitol out in Bismarck. People who work in my office, one of us ran for office, one. But everyone is the Attorney General's office, and they know that I believe that to my core. And so I celebrate their work too. But I tell them when I'm going through an interview with whether it's a lawyer or non-attorney position, just be sure that you want to do this. That's one of the first things I ask. Why? Why the Attorney General's office? And don't tell me good benefits. I mean, have a sense of the mission because you're going to work hard, and lots going to be asked of you, and you probably won't make as much as you would if you're in the private sector. So, just understand that that's what you want to do. That'd be my advice. They're good experiences. They're interesting, but be sure you want to do it. And again, talking way beyond the relatively few people who put their name on the line to run for office, because public service is all of it. It's people who work over here in City Hall and would never think of running for office, but they're glad and proud to be a city employee, and they provide public service and right on across the line. So I think I'm elderly now, so I look back and that's my advice. I just met with some students at Cheyenne High School this morning and kind of conveyed the same sense to them. To want to be in public service doesn't mean you want to run for president of the United States. There's a lot of things you can do. And then there's so many, I mean, how blessed are we, right? We live in this beautiful place, and not just because today's a beautiful day, but it is. We live in this place. We've got a really sound school system. We've got serious commitment to law and order in our states. We have economic opportunities. We have all the natural resources you could ever hope for that God would ever give to like one state or region. And we've got all of that can be utilized for people and their bright ideas. And people have a lot of them for different businesses. And then things grow. And the two of you are in real estate and working on and selling things to people for consumer goods that people want. And it's all tied together. It's all tied together, and it all emanates from the land. It all emanates from people being farmers and ranchers and oil and gas and producers and building things. And then all of a sudden, people need homes and buildings, and then they have resources that they want to utilize to add to their quality of life and their enjoyment of the weekends and family time and everything else. And it's all completely connected. And it is all. You look at where we are. Everybody listening to this thing, if they're paying attention, they know this. We live in. We work in. We're blessed to be in the greatest state in the finest nation on the face of the earth. I believe that to my core. And to our friends who are listening over in Minnesota, also a nice place. But I mean that too. That's another great thing about being here. We get to go and enjoy the beauty and wonder of Minnesota. Or you can take a weekend and head down to South Dakota and have fun. That's a second-tier state. I tease my friends down there. Now, South Dakota's a good place too. We got friendly neighbors to the north. We've really got it made. People say, it's kind of cold. Yep, 4 weeks out of every winter. I really have to bundle up. But the rest, you two are young fellows who are just kind of on the launching part of what will be really exciting opportunities. And you don't need me to come in here and tell you that you're lucky, but you are. And you get to kind of chart out that path up ahead in a place of plenty with great people. People that you work with, people that you sell stuff to, people that you try to find just the right fit for their residential property, whatever it might be. I don't know. We're so blessed. Our 3 kiddos live around here still. Our oldest daughter's up in Grand Forks now, going to law school, and our middle kiddo, he's in the middle of finals here at NDSU, and our youngster, she's still a high school student out in Bismarck. And I love that they love it here. And I don't, you never know where people will go eventually. But fellas, when I was in high school, graduating from Fargo South in 1984, and then went on to college, undergrad at UND, a lot of people were thinking in terms almost exclusively of, okay, I'm gonna find a job in Denver, in Chicago, Minneapolis, St. Paul. And those are nice places and nice areas, but boy, is there a paradigm shift to where people think, man, there's just opportunity all over here. And it was tougher economically in those times. And we all owe a lot to those generations that just kept at it and kept saying, no, there is great plenty here. We're blessed.
Yeah, you've seen a lot come and go here. Something I have been curious to ask you on, you've held a multitude of different positions, being one of the only guys to be appointed U.S. attorney, a couple times.
Yep.
You held the lieutenant governor position, taking over as attorney general a couple times. So in the economic ups and the economic downs, you were lieutenant governor when the oil boom was going on out west. So what were some challenges that you in the state of North Dakota faced? As something that obviously we've never seen, what were some challenges that you guys faced, and how did you guys overcome those at that time?
Well, the challenges were largely challenges of robust, fill in the blank, robust growth, robust demand, robust need for expanding schools, robust need for widening and improving roadways and infrastructure and water systems and everything else, because for the first time in generations, people were flowing into the state in dramatic numbers, and they figured out pretty quickly, like, this oil and gas play is not going to be flash in the pan. So all of a sudden they started bringing their families with them from other states when they were moving out here too, and their kids had to have schools to go to. And I use Watford City as an example. It was a pretty quiet little town here in the early 2000s, and then things took off dramatically. And some would say too dramatically, and some people try to take political advantage by saying, we don't have room in our schools, the roadways aren't safe, on and on and on and on. And I made a comment at the time that became controversial for like 3 weeks, and I stand by it today, as I tend to in my public pronouncements. Our challenges were rich man problems. We had rich man problems. We need more space because we have more students. We need wider roads because we have more trucks. We need better water infrastructure and everything else because there's more demand from industry and people building communities and everything else. And we've got the resources as a state. The revenues were flowing in, so we had the money to flow in. The governor that I had the privilege of working with, Governor Dalrymple, had been in public life for a long time, both in the state legislature. His family is ingrained in the economics of this region through their farming interests and value-added agricultural work over decades and generations. And then he had 10 great years working in hand in glove with the then Governor John Hoeven, and really building on the economic capabilities of our state and region. And then Jack Dalrymple was exactly the right person to be in place at that time to be able to make assessments of what were the infrastructure needs of the state and what was he willing to do to move the legislature in the direction of we had historic tax cuts, largest in state history, but also the expenditures went up quite dramatically. And as I would tell people when I went out, and they would say, well, you guys are spending a lot of money. I'd say, well, you stop me when you think that we're at the place that you don't want the money being spent by the government. We're giving more opportunities to schools to expand dramatically to take in the number of kids that are coming into their communities, whether it's Watford City or Crosby or Dickinson or all the places in between, or better roadways. We're having challenging road conditions. People got to widen them. We got to have passing lanes. We got to have all sorts of things for the size of trucks and the numbers of people that are moving around and kids driving between schools and school events. And the list went on and on and on and on. And pretty soon people are like, yeah, that doesn't sound. Yeah, those aren't controversial things. Those are things that a state on the move needs, and that is what we were, and that is what we are today. We have a new normal in our economic activity in the state, and it has sprung up largely. You look in the late 90s, then early 2000s, and growth, dramatic expansion, and now here we are. People aren't fleeing the state in huge numbers. We've got the largest population we've had since the early 1900s, when every quarter of land had a different farm family on it, and that's not the way anymore. But a lot of these small communities around our state have had new life breathed into them, and it's permanent, it's real, it's lasting, and again, just opportunity across the state. We're super blessed, and it's why you hear more people talking about, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to move out to Bismarck, Mandan. I've got an opportunity out there with an engineering firm, or what have you, and everything in between. I always said, anything you want to do, short of maybe marine biology. Maybe even marine biology. I don't know. Can you do that over the internet? Probably.
Yeah. I mean, drive through Fargo. Look at the growth. South Fargo. It's incredible. Right. I mean, it's
West
everywhere.
Fargo.
West Fargo.
Yeah. Out there, and that's where I was at the school today. I told those youngsters, I said, when I was your age, this was a wheat field, and this was a long way from the edge of town. Now, I might sound like their grandpa. I told one, I said, how old do you think I am? She goes, 52? Knuckles, man, 52. I said, I remember those days like it was yesterday.
Take it. Yeah, that's right. So
59 years old.
You said you don't do a whole lot of speaking like on stuff like this, so
No.
I guess we're pretty lucky here. I guess I just happened
You
to
tell me.
run into you at the Inforum boardroom, and I'm like, what is this guy speaking at the Inforum for? I still never got a chance. Like, what was that all about for you? Is that just a chance to come and, I mean, I'd love to hear.
I meet with the editorial board, not quite every year, but from time to time, because I want people to, like, I always tell people, I don't work for the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I've said it that day. Like, I'm the mayor of Reelsville. I want people to ask me whatever you want to know, and then know that I stand by it. I've said that to reporters. I've 25 years. I've been in and out of public life in North Dakota, twice as U.S. Attorney, and then as Lieutenant Governor, and now in this role. And I'm proud of the fact that we've been in the middle of some controversial things, because I am somebody, I want us to move the needle on things. We're not in these jobs to do piecemeal small ball work, not really moving around, just keep everything placid, and our job is just to look good. That is not what our job is. Our job is to do the public's work, to do it in an accountable, transparent way, take all incoming. I go on radio shows from time to time and other things, and they know I don't just go on when we're holding a championship belt. The public pays us. They get to ask us questions through all of you, through all the different formats, and there are more of them today than there used to be. And that's even on controversial days. So we engage in those topics. And the editorial board, and from time to time you'll be talking with a reporter, and they'll say, can you just tell me this off the record? And there are things, if I'm ethically or legally bound not to say it, then I can't say it off the record either. But if I can give some guidance on something, I'll say, well, I can't be public on this today, but I can let you know that you might want to ask me in 2 weeks about the following things. If not all of them, every one of them, I think. But if not, then 99% of them I must have forgot one time. I'll tell them the same thing. What I'm telling you right now, I am every bit as accountable for as when I talk about this publicly. And honest to God, if you ever feel like Drew has misled me, not I disagree with you. I'm sure they disagree with me plenty. But if I misled you about, we don't have, that document doesn't exist, or I'm not going to give that thing, or it's red when it's blue, or whatever, what have you. I said, I can't imagine that wouldn't waive my privacy that we're having this discussion, and that'd be a hell of a story. The Attorney General came in and he lied to us. Said it was off the record. Really, he just didn't want to be accountable. He wanted to mislead us in some way and get us to go after some other story or some other thing. I think that's a sacred responsibility of ours, sacred. And so I meet with those editorial boards, and I've done it since I was a U.S. Attorney. I meet with them to see, do you have any additional questions that you guys want to ask in addition to what came out during a press conference? Is there something you want to ask about our work, like even the why? Like, Drew, why would you guys do it this way? Why are you pursuing that or not? Or what are you doing? I should have to answer those things. anyone, you can tell because you asked me questions and I keep going on and on. I told you I was going to be succinct and I'm not. That was a fib. But when I do a press conference or something, I don't walk out. I mean, I've got some written down because I know what I want to talk about. But I don't have a bunch of talking points at the end of which, okay, now I'm going to exit this thing. And I got my point across, and now I look the way I want it to look. Anyone who has ever covered a press conference for me knows I'm there as long as you have questions. And if there's something that I can't answer, then I can't answer it. I'm not allowed to answer that. Or I'll tell you that in a few weeks, or what have you. And I do that. That is a point of pride. And I get the people that work around me, both at the U.S. Attorney's Office and now in the AG's office, to view it the same way. The public, through their interrogators, the media, are not the enemy. Just because you think I'm about to have a bad day in the press, that is not going to read that well, or that didn't go that well, or there's some columnist for the Forum, and they've got them. They'll come after me once in a while. Phone rings, I still take their calls.
Really?
You know what I mean? For sure. For sure.
Those guys are they're in. Like once they've got locked in on something, they're like, we're gonna figure this out, man. They don't quit.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't figure it out. Sometimes they just have it wrong. Mm-hmm. But you know that's life, and I can't complain about it if I don't engage with them. So, and I'm not talking about. I mean, I'm not just saying this because Foreign Communications. I said it that day. We should all be super proud of that news organization. I've been reading their stuff since I was a little kid, growing up here, and they've got radio and TV and everything else. So not to single someone out. So when I take issue with what a columnist has written about me, I'm not saying, oh man, I'm done with that entity or KVLY or KX or whoever it might be. I'm not. That's just not who I am. And they'll call, and some people might say, why do you answer his questions? He's been rude to you. There's one columnist, I think he was super rude to me last winter. Super rude. I think he was selective in what he wanted to write about. But you know what else I think? He's a serious writer. He gets into a lot of issues. I think he does a really good job. I think he has this completely wrong, and I don't think he treated me four square. He's a human being just like me. He thinks that I'm abrasive. He thinks that I've been impossible on this one issue. He thinks that I've been strident. His partner on his podcast referred to me as a sludgehammer, to which I plead guilty. I can be. Mm-hmm. I can be. But I still stick true to what I believe. Like I said, I stand by every word. And also I know that to get some issues out into the public to where they're going to be discussed, you have got to be willing to take it on the chin, and I am. And I stand by the things that we said, including referring to certain entities as not being square with the public and not being forthright. And I'm right. Because I can give you what they've said publicly, and I can give you what the truth is and what they know it to be. I'm right about that. Now, even right now, I feel myself getting into my more abrasive stance, but I am a combative person. But I think this stuff is worth fighting about. And I'm not going to relent on that because I didn't run for this job. I think we all want it. I'm affable to a degree, but I literally did not run for this job to make friends. Like, I have an idea. If I can be AG, then I can have a bunch of extra friends. You don't have extra friends. You have more people who know your name, and maybe if anything, you have extra enemies. People who decide like, I think that guy's a jerk, or I don't like this, that, or the other thing, and they're entitled to that. We are doing this to move the needle on important things. For us, transparency, accountability, and for being the real people, like spelling out, this is what the law requires and demands. Here's where it was or was not met, and we're gonna put that out. And that has come over the last 3 years, even with things inside the Attorney General's office that we've discovered were going on, and people didn't have to discover it some other way. They heard it from me.
Yeah, you've been in public service for a long time here, obviously, with a multitude of different positions here.
Yep.
You got done talking about maybe going to the lake and, being around the kids some more and things like that. Where do the next few years lead you?
You got to have fun, too, Try to get out to the lake on the weekends. And my kids are monsters, all three of them. They are three monsters. And I always joke that they were little short people. Now they're all tall people, and they're the best. And that's the best time that you spend, right? So really lucky that they're around, and they like to ski, and they like to hang out, and they like to hunt, and they like to do things. So we do all that. In the years ahead, like I mentioned, we've got a daughter in law school. Son, he's got one more year left at NDSU, and then our youngest will be heading off to school here at some point. She wants to play volleyball, I guess. And that's fun watching her. I said, I just wish you would like maybe fail a couple math classes here and stick around for another couple of years. What would it hurt to have 2 more years of high school?
Right.
But she's a really good student, so that's not a very good plan. It's not panning out for me. But the years ahead will, I'm going to, a year from now, I've got to, well, actually, I'll probably have to decide later this fall. I'll decide whether to seek another term as Attorney General in 2026. And if you guys promise not to tell anybody, I'll tell you, I intend to run for another term as Attorney General. And I've really appreciated the public. I get stopped routinely. Okay, I'll be at a grocery store. Someone walking down. It usually goes something like this, because people are busy. They got their lives. It doesn't matter that you've been in public life 25 years. Walk up and they're like, "Are you that lawyer?" I said, well, it kind of depends on what comes out of your mouth next. Yes, with a caveat maybe. And then we start talking, whatever, and you go through. And again, not direct quote, but something along the lines, routinely, somebody will say, "You're a lot friendlier in person." I said, well, I'm friendly. But they make the point, that, yeah, well, when you're on TV or you're in the paper, it's usually because somebody's done something they shouldn't have, or you're talking about some issues that's challenging, or something that maybe isn't so perfect about our communities. Like the fact that we've had 10 straight years of violent crime, when it's like you look at the category of crimes committed by a human being against another human being, 10 straight years of that going up. There were about 8,600 such crimes 10 years ago, and now we're up 43% roughly. We're up in the 12,600 or 800 range. That's a lot more victims every single year. It's been going up, and it's a challenge. And I've got some things I've been trying to address in that front, and getting some resistance from some people who want to resist that in the political process. But you know who doesn't resist it? The public. I bet the public's about 85, 90%. And that day we were talking over there at the forum, you could see it in that room. That was a lot of support. And I would describe that as somewhat, I don't want to say left-leaning, but it wasn't like a big, it wasn't a MAGA crowd.
No.
And so a lot of support for that. The lady next to me had the funniest line, though. She had 2 of them. At one point, remember, she goes, "Do you need a hug?" Yeah. I said, "Yes, in fact, I do." I don't know. It doesn't matter how old she was. She was adorable, and she had kind of white hair, but then she had a dyed purple matching her sweatshirt. She was fantastic. And at the end, she said, "We agree with you on the violent crime stuff," but she said, "Is there anything that you think you could do to get the legislature to be mad at violent criminals as much as they are mad at librarians?" I said, I don't know. I don't know if they're mad at librarians or not, but that was I valued that conversation. And you asked, well, why go over there? Because again, this is a group that's helping shape news coverage, and they're reading the paper every day. So we're in that paper a lot here in Fargo-Moorhead. And I just wanted them to feel like, ask anything you want, but also get a sense of the people that are in the news, because we are human beings at the end of the day. We're imperfect. Some days we're abrasive. Some days we're trying to be too, smooth off the edges too much, and you can do both of those things. I believe that, and so we try to stick to the integrity of the moment, what's going on, what actually happened that you can talk about now, and then understand in the fullness of time, you're going to have to talk about almost all of it. And I always want to be graded against what did we say, what did I tell you was so, and how did that pan out? Now, things sometimes, we can start an investigation and we get going down one route and maybe it goes a different direction. That happens too. We'll answer for those things.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. Thinking about running again for it. Had you ever had any aspirations to maybe be the governor or anything of sorts like that? I feel like as long as you've been in this, like if there was a guy that probably could do it, it probably is you.
Why do you feel like my job's so crappy you want me to run for a different one?
Doesn't the governor get to ride around like a cool helicopter or something? I thought maybe that'd be a fun perk for you.
Governors are pampered every day of their lives. No, I've had the privilege of knowing the last several of our governors, and we've had a really good run on governors in the state of North Dakota, including right now. We got another good man in there who's working hard at things. There was a time where when I was lieutenant governor, I really wanted to run for governor, and thought that I was thought that I would someday do that, and then decided not to run for re-election. Governor Dalrymple and I decided not to run for re-election in 2016, and I went back. I thought I'm going to go into the private sector, and made some personal decisions about that. I did, and but pretty quickly felt like the pull to throw my hat in the ring to be U.S. Attorney again, and I was fortunate enough to get reappointed as U.S. Attorney. And it was in that time period, right in there, that I definitely reached just a personal conclusion that I wasn't, if I got into public life, and I wasn't sure that I was going to, but if I did, it was going to be to run for Attorney General. I feel pretty well attuned with what is it that I like about this work. What did I love about being a DA? What did I love about being U.S. Attorney? And I really concluded then and there that if Trump were reelected, I would stay on for a second term then, and he obviously didn't get reelected, so all the U.S. attorneys had to leave office. That's the way that goes. They all leave, and then the new president appoints new U.S. attorneys. But I knew then and there, so then I stepped down with all the other U.S. attorneys on February 28th of 2021. All the U.S. attorneys were directed to step down. And for the first time in a long time, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't, have a plan. It came kind of abruptly, and I didn't know whether my predecessor was going to run for re-election. I didn't have any way to know whether he was going to at the end of that year. I knew it would be decided, and I was fortunate enough. We've got family businesses that I was able to go and do some sort of general counsel type of work. My brother called it an internship. I said, "Is it at least paid a little bit?" He goes, "Yeah, not as much as you think, but but it was a really good experience, and I'm really super proud of our family's businesses, Wrigley Mechanical Incorporated. And Wrigley Mechanical has been around since it was founded in the 70s. And then what was Grant's Mechanical, my brother, sister, and I purchased some years back, and now it's BDT Mechanical.
Okay.
Built a new manufacturing facility up here in the park up in Northwest Fargo. And they're great companies. They did a lot of work on the RDO building here.
Cool. Really?
And we're really proud of the work they do. And it was a good experience for me to be there for 6-7 months working around and just kind of being an intern really, but thinking about what was going to happen next. And so then we got into the fall, and I just started to have a feeling that my predecessor, I didn't think he was going to run, and I started making some real preparations, really thinking more about it, and talking with people that wanted to be supportive, and I appreciated that. And then in December of 2021, I was done with my internship over at the business and kind of figuring out what was next. And my phone rang one morning, and it was Wayne Stensham calling to tell me that it wasn't going to run for re-election. That was the 17th of December, 2021. And within about 2 weeks, I had put out my announcement video, and that I was in the race. I was going to run. I was going to run full time. Someone just sent that to me not a week ago to look back on, and I said, "Wow, fate plays a role in life a lot too." We don't know, like you plan for things, right? And you need to, and you have to work assiduously toward your objectives, and then just have the peace of mind and heart to know that there are change in direction. Long answer to your answer about that. And I had decided before this, and so I jumped in the race, and the first question the media asked me, one of the first was, "Well, I suppose this is exciting for you. If you win this race, then you could run for governor if Burgum doesn't run for a third term." And I said right then and there that I wasn't going to, if I got elected, I was going to serve all 4 years of the term. And they're kind of like, "Oh, yeah, that's what politicians say." But I said it, and it was in print some places. In fact, another elected person asked me, "Why would you say something like that? You don't need to say that, Drew. Maybe you decide you want to run for governor." I said, "It's important to me that people know I'm running to be Attorney General, and that I'm going to serve 4 years as Attorney General." And sure enough, when Governor Burgum decided not to seek a third term, phone started ringing, and 2 or 3 of them asked, "Well, are you going to run?" I said, "No. I don't have to know who's running. I don't have to know anything else." It was like in the minutes after he made his announcement. I said, "I pledged to run all 4 years if I got elected," and the people of the state were kind enough to elect me Attorney General, and I don't regret that for a minute. I'm where I should be. I feel in all humility like this is a good blend, and I think the Attorney General's office, everybody, not just the guy in the corner office, I feel like we're benefiting the state in a lot of important ways. We've moved a lot of important needles. We played defense on a lot of things that we needed to put a stop to and end. And so I'm going to run for re-election next year if I'm healthy. I feel healthy today. I hope you never know though, right? People have car accidents, people have things, because as I started to say, just about 10 days after Wayne was out saying he wasn't going to run, I was in and I was running. And my campaign lasted in that phase of it, 4 weeks. I was at a campaign luncheon up in Stanley, North Dakota. Some good friends up there put together a luncheon. And I'm walking in phone call, take the call that morning, and Wayne had been found unresponsive, and that was all the information that was out there. And by later that night, I had another event that afternoon, and I was in my Jeep driving back. I still remember where I was in the north end of Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and I got a text. I looked down and pulled over. All it said was, "We lost him." It was one of Wayne's relatives, and couldn't believe it. I have to say, I couldn't believe it. I'd known him a long time. We all have, and then just, I had this head of steam. I was going to be running full time. That was going to be my job. I'd set aside some resources for that, and we had started. And then, it was about 2 weeks later that after Wayne's funeral, a couple days later, that I was appointed Attorney General and sworn in to serve out his last year, and then elected to my own term. So I say fate plays a role in all of that too. I realize that it does in all of our lives, and something I try to convey to my kids a lot too, and anybody that I know, is that have a peaceful mind and heart to know that the universe is at work too. However you want to look at it. For me, it's my faith. I believe that there's a loving God that cares and is playing a role. And other people feel that there are other forces, and whatever their perspective, I respect that, but just never feel alone in it. Like, you got other people, you got friends and associates, people maybe you've never even met, who are there to sometimes help guide the path. Inform your judgment, even if it's like you learn something from seeing them from afar. You just learn something watching them and their experience. And I feel that looking back. I feel there's an enormous amount of truth in that. It touches me so, just because I do feel blessed with where I was born, the family that I was born into, what my folks and everybody's like, and then the kiddos I've been blessed with, but then also my work, feeling like, we get to impact our communities. And I tell this when I hire people into the office, lawyers and non-lawyers, like, what a privilege you're going to have to put your thumbprint on things. And my son is really interested in business and marketing and going to stuff like that, and tell him the same thing. Like, you're going to be working with other people, trying to advance your and their and everyone's sort of economic interests, but also whatever it is that you're doing, and then find that value in your work, and you're going to be well off. It's going to work out.
Well, that's why we're here. I mean, having you, not everyone has a dad like you, so it's really cool to get your message across all of these platforms, because not everyone's as lucky to have a guy like you to say that. So appreciate you doing this, man.
That's nice of you to say. I can guarantee you, I could give you my kids' phone numbers. You could call them on certain days. They'd say, yeah, oh yeah, I won the lottery already. You bet.
Yeah.
No, but I've been blessed with a lot of, my folks and others that have been around. And then I just think we also live in a place where there are people out there who want to support you. They want you to learn your craft, whatever it might be, and give you input. This weekend I had an exchange with a person who's been a mentor of mine for a lot of years. And it wasn't the most pleasant exchange, frankly, because he was taking issue with something that we had said and done that as I responded to, it's irrefutable. It's not my opinion. It's something that is established by. And then he had a comment come back, and it felt very loving to me, because I know where he comes from and he knows where I come from, but we're not always going to agree. That's mentorship too. That's back to that integrity piece. That's people who care enough to say, hey, I think you could have said that different. I think you could have done that in a different way. And then I get to point out, I don't feel as many choices as you might feel about that, and here's why. And so that's an important part of the journey too. And have fun, right? You guys, you claim you're doing this for fun. They probably pay you guys millions of dollars a year to do this.
Right.
And but that's a big part of it, right? I mean, so you stopped me after that meeting, and you're kind of contagious. I thought, why wouldn't I go on? And we just met today, but like, that's a part of it too. Stuff should have a little kick to it. Why shouldn't it spark people's interest? I got stopped on the street out here to talk with Joe Burgum a little bit about a couple things. We ended up talking about Rome. I said, what a culture. They don't allow there to be a flat surface that it doesn't have something beautiful on it, whether it's a sculpture or a painting or something else, but that inspires the human soul to do whatever you're doing. That is a real thing. And people's business lives can do that too. in their academic lives. The teacher I was with over at Cheyenne today, you could sense like she and her students have this cool rapport. Like she's sparking something in them. And that's art too in its own way. Really believe that.
Who was your greatest mentor, if you had to name one or two?
Well, for sure, my folks. I mean,
Yeah.
those are the heaviest influence. And then you look back on some across the years. When you look back, you're somewhat not resistant to your folks, but growing up, or the more, let's say it's an uncle, or so sometimes you can be a little resistant to your people, right? Because you think you know it all at certain ages.
Teachers are absolutely amazing. It's hilarious.
Absolute
You're bringing up. I actually have a teacher similar. I was in high school, and I wasn't a bad kid, but I wasn't one of those kids that was always just a straight A. I was like, C's get degrees. That was always my mentality. So I was rolling through, and I always had this one teacher that just firmly believed in me for whatever reason. She just always was like, "You're a good kid. You're gonna do big things," and it's crazy. Even to this day, she still is like, she'll be all over my stuff, commenting on stuff. I think she actually knows you, Laura Przinski out of Devil's Lake.
Come on,
she
are
is
you
like
kidding me? We went to UND together. I just saw her at the state basketball tournament.
One of my biggest mentors, and I'm so glad you're bringing that up because I totally forgot. I was like, I will have to bring that up.
She and my little sister were sorority sisters. Oh, she was a little bit older than my little sister. Up at UND too, and she and her husband Tony, and I mean, I run into them from time to time. She's a very special person. I'm not surprised that she's that kind of teacher. Yeah,
when she retires, the Devil's Lake public school system is going to have like a hole, and it's going to be tough to replace her.
No, she's amazing.
Yeah, I do know that feeling. That's a spectacular one to
saw her
have.
at the basketball stuff, and she came over, and big hug, and she's great. And like I say, she and Tony are just super people, and family.
I told her, I said, hey, I think we have Drew coming on the podcast. I said, anything I could ask? And she goes, you know what? If I got a problem, I'll just text him.
That's right.
I said, okay.
That's
I said, well, that's pretty good
then. She was texting me at the game, and I'm like, well, where are you? And then she sends me a picture of where she was from that vantage, and I'm like honed in on her. Yeah. No, she's great. But that's the deal. We've all, I think, crossed ways. Sometimes it's a school teacher. Sometimes it's, somebody up the street or a cousin or whatever, what have you. But there are mentors, and Glenn Orvik was just amazing too. And I'll tell you some other time when I come on your show, I'll tell you the story about the one time, meaningful time in my life when I quit. And he called me a quitter. And he looked at me and he said, Drew, I hate to even think it. I was in 9th grade and I quit cross country because I was too overwhelmed with my classes and everything going on. And he'd been courting me to come up cross country all through junior high because I was running and stuff. And I said, I just can't do it. Like a couple weeks in, I said, my studying and all this stuff. You think back then, you're like, this is insurmountable, And I still picture him. He's looking down at me and said, Drew, I hate to even say it. But he said, once a quitter, always a quitter. He just turned on his heel and walked away from me. I stood there feeling this high. And I came out for track in the spring. And I worked my tail off. And I went out for track, and I had my best track season I'd had. And the rest is history. By the time I was a senior, I was a captain on the cross-country team. That was the last time I quit something meaningful. And I do have longer stories for all these. He asked me to speak to a coaching group from around the country one year. And I couldn't get through this story, I mean, in more of its detail, because it's just like it's a reminder. My parents were great about that too, but this was my coach. I'd looked up to him for years when I was in junior high, seeing him. We actually went to the same church too. And now he just very chilly was sort of like basically saying, Drew, this is consequential, not inconsequential. And he knew I was quitting for like some lazy reason. I didn't decide, well, I don't like running or I've got this, I got to have a job because I've got a sick family member or something. No. I was just being lazy and a little bit overwhelmed by the nerves of like all the pressure of being a high school. And he wasn't gonna sit and pretend like that was anything but weakness. And who wants to feel that in yourself? Once in a while. Today you'd probably be in trouble if you talk like that to a student, but you shouldn't be, because that came from a place of love too. He was concerned and handled it in a way that I never did it again. And I suppose I've pulled up short a time or two over the years on different things. Nobody runs the fastest marathon every day of their life, but that stuck in my mind.
You take a lot of heat. There's got to be some fun stuff that you get to do though too, right?
A lot of fun.
Is there anything you can touch on that's like a cool AG executive or a governor thing that you guys get to do? That, I mean, come on, 20 years, there's got to be something.
Yeah, you get to. I mean, once in a while you get to meet people that maybe other people don't get a chance to meet. And I don't mean like, if the president's in town, I suppose you get to meet the president, and that's a night. That's okay. I mean, they're just like the rest of us. I hate to break that to everybody. But once in a while you'll meet somebody because I'm at a conference and somebody's speaking or whatever, and then you get a chance to break bread with them. You get to talk with them later on. Or when I was U.S. Attorney, the first time, this guy named Johnny Sutton was the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas. And there were about 14 of us out of the 93 that the AG had appointed to an advisory committee. And we go to D.C. every 6 weeks. Well, Johnny convinces all these people that we're all going to run the world someday, and they need to come and have lunch with us, right? So George Will comes in to have lunch with us, and Juan Williams comes to have lunch with us, and some woman who's like the biggest guru in K through 12 education. All these people from D.C., judges, former deputy attorney generals of the United States who went on to be, famous judges and almost went to the Supreme Court. And these people all come in to talk to us because Johnny has them convinced like this group table is going to run the world someday. And some of them did. Chris Christie was in that group, and there's a couple of others that were in there. But it was really fun in that setting to sit there and be able to have conversations with these folks. That was very special. Now that's not a high-profile event, and they were all off the record. Like you don't get to talk about what they were talking about, but they'd answer our questions and they'd go. That was very special. And then also people will come to you after something has happened publicly. And the people that come to you to say that they were impacted by that in some positive way. Now, true, some people will come too, and they're not that happy with you. But even that has something special to it. You do feel there's a lot of integrity about it. If you are an approachable person, and people sense that you're not that intimidating, and they're going to come up to you, you will hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. There are people who don't get those things. I don't know why, but I really like that. I feel like I've heard from most people by the end of the month who are upset with us. I get hate grams into the office once in a while, and my secretary has figured out that I mean this. I was like, just give me the thing. She goes, well, they don't have a number. Well, track down a number. I'm gonna call them. At first, she's like, why? Why would you do that? I was like, seems like they got a lot on their mind. And you call them, and I'm not Wyatt Earp. Like I'm not talking tough. I just call them and say, hi, this is Drew Wrigley. Seems like there's
I bet they're shocked.
A lot on your mind. And then they're like, well, I didn't think anybody was going to call me back. I said, yeah, I didn't think so. Since you left a message on the answer machine at 2 a.m, it seemed like maybe you didn't expect to call back, but let's hear it. And then if you go through it with them, pretty soon they're like, well, you didn't have to call me, but I didn't really like that. Like, I get it. I mean, here's why I did it. Here's what we're doing and why, or not. That has something that I like. I don't know why, because I've yet to get off the phone with them, and I'm not just schmoozing them. I mean, I've yet to get off the phone and have one of them say, You're an a-hole for calling me. Yeah. Never. They appreciate it. They think, well, I appreciate that somebody would call, and that stuff's nice. And then also you get insights on things sometimes that they can't be more broadly disseminated public, and that can be a law enforcement matter, or it can be something with the military. Maybe I'm taking a tour of some kind that you get to see some insights, and every time it gives you even more faith in what people are doing. People will tell you about their businesses, what they're manufacturing, what they're working on. And you're like, man, that's pretty awesome. When that becomes more broadly known, that's going to be pretty cool that people are working on that. I think those are things that I enjoy, and I also enjoy that in North Dakota. For sure, you can be in public life and your life is very normal. I'm quite confident if you question my kids, they'd say, my dad had a job. He worked hard. He was also super present for things. He'd be around stuff. He was home every night, have dinner, and maybe go back and work, or maybe just bring stuff home. He's around, but our house didn't get bombed. There weren't weird things going on. I didn't feel like my life was adversely impacted by my dad being in this job, and I didn't feel a bunch of people hated me. Your family can have, so it's you don't have that disincentive that some people might. There are states that I would not run for this or some other job. I wouldn't do it because it would just be too negative an impact on your family. But
yeah,
in North Dakota,
I've always wondered that. It's
totally
pretty
normal.
Across the board. You don't ever have any. Do you and Kelly Armstrong just get to go have a beer on Friday after work after a long week?
We've had beers together before, not since he became governor, but it's interesting though. You become part of narratives once in a while. I mentioned this columnist. One of the things this columnist was saying this winter is that there's a fissure between the governor and the attorney general on this issue, and it's growing. And he was saying this, and I called one day. I said, I don't know how to break this to you, but there are two people involved in that story that you're talking about, and whoever is telling you that, they're not telling you the truth because it's not true. I said, I'm not shy about arguing. I mean, why wouldn't I? I'll argue with somebody if I have to, and Kelly's the same way. So neither of us are going to shy away from that. That is not true, what you are reporting, whatever you're saying. Oh, I was told this, that, and the other.
He said, we were drinking beers at my house. What are you
Not
talking
anybody
about?
credible. I went over to talk to Kelly about one of the controversial issues that it was controversial, involved both of us. I walked over there. I said, "Hey, Kel, I owe you the direct quotes. I'll tell you behind the curtains. This is what happened." I said, "Kel, I owe you an apology." And he's like, "No, you don't." And I said, "Nah, I do. I'm going to argue this policy, and I'm going to push as hard as I can." And he looked at me and smiled. He goes, "I noticed." I said, but one of the things that I had said about somebody in his administration, I said, that has the effect of sounding like I'm criticizing you for who you picked. And I said, "You have my word, I'm never going to do that again." And he sort of looked at me, and he said, "Okay, well, that's nice of you." He said, because we can have it out behind closed doors if we need to, and it's not my business who you pick to do things, but I'm pushing this policy." And again, he said, "Yeah, no, I noticed." And he kind of laughed. He goes, "Can we pivot?" I said, "Sure. On to the next issue." I mean,
yeah,
not because he doesn't care, but this is another guy. This is another hardworking person who's serious about what he's got to do. There's an enormous variety of demands on all these jobs, but maybe the governors get a lot flowing in there. They got a lot of subject matters that. So
he's very active on the socials. He's a fun one to keep up
Is
with.
he?
We like
Actually,
his
he
tin
is.
bill. Sunglasses on, signing the bill.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually,
it's-
on Twitter.
so
He's
see-
good. He's super good natured, and one of his former law partners was one of my daughter's professors up at UND in the law school this year, and so he grabbed Quinn when we walked into a little gathering the other day, and they were yapping it up over there, and he's a very likable guy and super high energy, and another person of North Dakota who loves the state and is going to work hard at it. So yeah, we've got a very good working relationship. Well, we don't have the same jobs. I mean, and our jobs don't intersect in every way, but they intersect in important ways, and so that's an important relationship for the state.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Let's do this every day.
Every day?
Let's make it my podcast.
Yeah, we should. Let's call it the
just-
Drew Wrigley podcast.
Yeah,
Let's
Drew
go
Wrigley
through all the
30.
grades and my
Yeah.
teachers.
yeah.
Yeah, as long as we
right.
can make it on that verified Instagram account of yours, we'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Amen. You'll be there. I gotta figure that a couple things out on there. But my kids, we have so much fun sending them memes. I'll be walking between meetings or something, and if I send something sarcastic or something, Quinn's always pretty good about. Yeah, Dad, do you actually have a job? Because that's like the
What do
third
you-
meme today. I'm like, it takes 2 seconds to go. So anyway, but I send my kiddo stuff in there, and there's also a fair number of I follow some things that are centered on faith, and,
Sure.
and I enjoy sharing that with them. My kids are really seamless about that. That's super comfortable space for them. Not because we're all Bible bangers, whatever that sounds like a pejorative. I don't mean it that way, but our faith's important to us, and my kiddos they're very comfortable with that discussion, and so we do memes back and forth. And then my little sister, she's another one who we go back and forth with some of that stuff. So I think there's a fun way. I mean, social media gets hacked on a lot, and I'm sure there are bad components to it, but there's also a lot of fun and
Nothing better than sending memes back and forth with your dad.
Yeah.
Me
No,
and my
it's
dad,
great.
just get them, and I'm like, Dad, go to work.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Patrick tried to convince me that LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. Now, this started about 3 years ago. And I appreciate very deeply that my son has matured to the point where after watching thousands of memes about Michael Jordan being sent to him, he doesn't disparage me anymore. He's like, okay, for his era, I can totally see this. But I'm like, this is a completely different style of play.
Yeah.
A completely different level of compete. I know LeBron wants to win, but I love the memes of the ones with him faking like it got hit in the jaw. and all
Flops
that
it,
stuff.
and then, yeah.
It's like, no,
Nothing
that's not
beats
Michael
MJ.
Jordan, man.
Yeah,
And
he's just killer.
so it's so much fun to watch, and I think the game was, from my perspective, I watch hockey, to the degree that I watch, Fighting Sioux hockey, but
UND guy over here.
Yep.
love it.
That's right. You
And
Laura.
that's super fun hockey to watch and follow, and yeah, I just I really, but back in the day, that's when I was in Philly. It was the heyday of that, when I was in the DA's office, and read about those games every day, and then watch as many as you could watch, and then really get into it during the playoffs. And I guess I didn't realize like what an era where you look at him and Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant and these teams that were
Studs.
just
You're going the back-to-back-to-back, the three-peats. It's not been nothing like it.
incredible. And then
Living in it.
LeBron James, it's like he's good.
Yeah.
No, a bunch of people.
Not as
Yeah.
good.
But it's just not the same. It's not the same style of play, and just not the same. But like I said, obviously a super talented guy.
Have you
But
got to
his-
meet any like NBA? I don't know if
No.
paths would ever cross. For
No,
that, but
I've never met an NBA player.
You
that
could
I can recall.
DM him from the Instagram.
yeah,
Yeah, I should.
Get that.
I should do that.
That'd be cool.
I got to know Dave Hackstall when he was coaching the Sioux because his father-in-law is a good friend of mine, and he was the head of this foundation board. And David sent up a helmet, a Sioux helmet. It was like the last year they had the Sioux, and there's a little Sioux logo on the side of it. The full cage, everything. He sent it up, and he signed it for me. And so then, I don't know, about 3-4 months later, I was up there at a game, and they this sort of thing happens. I was lieutenant governor, and his father-in-law said, "Hey, well, come on down to the locker room after, and I'll give you a tour, meet some of the guys." And so I went down there, and we're walking through, and then I walked to Dave Hackstall, and he's just like, he's a stone cold killer, right? David is a stone cold killer, very austere. He was a Sioux captain when he played there, and he's actually really funny in person, but he's very dry. And I'm standing around there like 3 or 4 players, and they're all getting in various stages of, one guy's getting a hot tub, one guy's getting ice, all this stuff. But then we're all standing around talking. And I said, "Hey, Coach, thanks a lot for the helmet." I said, "It's proudly displayed in the lieutenant governor's office out there." And he's like, "It's like, no problem." And I said, "Hope you don't mind, but I've been telling people that we hang out." And all the guys they break out laughing. And then just like perfect timing, David, like when it subsided, he just looks and goes, "Same."
Same. Ego
like,
through
sure.
the roof.
Sure. Yeah, no, they believe you, David. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hang out with the lieutenant governor. They're like, "What's the lieutenant governor?" Is that the same as like, is that like the handmaiden? Or?
Yeah, what is that again?
Oh,
man.
that's too good.
But that was fun to meet him. But along the way,